Most high performers think resilience is willpower, grit, grind, hustle, just dig deeper, do more. Inevitably, however, under pressure, it's this very approach, this very mindset that snaps under pressure. Buckle up. This conversation, and I say this with a lot of intentionality and reflection, perhaps my favorite conversation to date. In this conversation, I am joined with CEO and co-founder of Molliteum, Matt Caldaroni. Matt is the resilience coach athletes call when their mental game is costing them strokes. He's worked with elite performers across the NHL, NBA, NFL, and PGA Tour, helping them master pressure, build unshakable confidence, and finally bring their best game into competition. If there were ever an episode to have your note-taking device handy, this is the one. There's systems, there's acronyms, there's no shortage of nuggets designed to get you to think, shift, and upgrade your mindset, perspective, beliefs, and behaviors. And I absolutely know you're going to love this conversation. And when you do, share it with a friend. Take the 30 seconds it takes to leave a genuine rating and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Yes, finally, the show is back on Spotify and wherever else you're listening to today's conversation. Without further ado, let's dive in. Please help me in welcoming Matt to the show. Matt, most golfers and entrepreneurs, they think resilience is all about willpower. Digging in deeper, grind, hustle, hustle, hustle. And candidly, I used to be that guy. But you have a different approach. You focus on building systems. So help us understand, why does relying on willpower eventually fail under pressure? And what does a true resilience system look like? And how does it help somebody?
Love it. Yeah. So a lot of times, like with all the athletes we've worked with from across any sport, right? It's like, so if you think about anybody who's successful when the going gets tough, when adversity strikes, all that kind of stuff, they know exactly how to fall back and what to fall back on, right? So they're not sitting there with a deer in the headlight kind of look on their face. It's like, you know what? Like, okay, I'm going through it. And it's not just about visualizing per se. Instead, it's more so of this idea where it's like, hey, when A happens, I know what to do with B. So when we structure systems or we look at it, like, it's funny with the whole grit thing and the willpower, and like, yes, those are important. Those are characteristics, right? Very much so, of personality and so on. So what's interesting though is, like, we like to see it as resilience is more of a lifestyle when you think about it, right? And we're not saying that you're coming in being these hardcore people. Resilience is having the ability to adapt. So all we want to do is keep somebody in that state of adaptation. And if you think about success, let's pretend it's a 5-circled wheel, if you want to call it that, with 5 different points on it. So you got to think of how real success happens, right? There's decide what you want, you commit to it, you take action, you adapt and adjust, and then you succeed. A lot of times, though, what we don't like to pay attention to is that adaptation portion. So the way that we look at it, it's like, hey, you know what? You're going to make that decision, you're going to commit, you're going to take action. Most people suffer when it comes to the adaptation process. So for us, we look at it more so where it's like, hey, you know what? Resilience is built of a couple things. Like, in our philosophy, it's excitement, certainty, and focus. And you have to have those 3 elements going into a performance. Otherwise, if you lack excitement and you don't have a system for that, you're going to go in there knowing what you need to do and how to do it, but you're not going to be super, let's call it, on edge to go get it done. There's a certain energy you need to have, right?
Yeah.
The certainty part, you can be super excited and super focused, but not trust yourself, and you're going to hesitate. And then you could be super focused, but not certain or excited, and you're still going to fall flat. So the reason, in a long-winded way to say it, that you have this is because you need to build systems to respond to pressure, not build, let's call it, or layer with skills just to have the sake of skills, right?
Incredible. And I can't help but already feel, and this is speaking personally, and I know it's going to resonate with my audience, like the excitement, the certainty, the focus. I know on the golf course for me, I still have such a gap of technical knowledge. And that's just because I'm still new-ish to the game. I bring all the excitement. I know how to access my mental toolkit to focus, but you're right.
Yeah.
Some of these shots and scenarios I'm standing over, there's a little voice in my mind that says, what the fuck do I do here? And it robs me of the opportunity to fully, increase my execution probability. So walk us through building a system for excitement, certainty, and focus. What does that look like?
Yeah, definitely. So excitement always starts with, so our core belief, and we always say it this way too, is if you think of some of the best in the world at what they do, there's an inherent, and in a good way, and we're going to preface it by saying this, there's an inherent selfishness about them to go accomplish what they want to get done, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, it's not sitting here saying like, I'm the only important person in the world, but if you think of these individuals, they sit there and they say, hey, I want to go get this. And anybody in my vision here, they're going to benefit either with me or they're not going to want to come along for the ride.
Yeah.
So they're selfish and they have specific goals that they want. They have specific things they want to accomplish. They have a purpose that's deep. So we categorize it in three separate parts to it. So we say there's something called a core hunger, and you need to have a vision, an identity, and a purpose. So when you have your vision, that means you have something you're focused on wanting to accomplish in the future. You have an identity, which is the most important part of who you must become to accomplish it. And then you have a purpose, which is obviously your why or motivation, whatever you want to call it. So you need to have those three things to build that system. The certainty part is actually a very interesting one, because if you think about it too, whenever you're fearing something or you don't know how to do it or you're frustrated with it, it's because you don't know what to do, how to do it, or you haven't repped it out enough, right? So the simple way that we look at certainty and when we build a system with athletes is to say, okay, cool. So there's two parts to it that a lot of people get mixed up. It all comes back to something called mastery, which I'm sure you've discussed before. If not, it's as simple as understanding that you do something with so much repetition and so much purpose and so much intensity that it becomes a part of you. It's ingrained in your nervous system. So whenever we look at mastery, it's funny because people usually go to one of two things. So sometimes they'll go to skill mastery, which is just mastering a basic skill, right? Like you talked about, a swing essentially. But then there's situational mastery. And it's like, hey, I want to be able to, hit a shot from the fairway. Problem is that when you look at your mastery, you need both the skill and you need the situation or what to do and how to do it. So whenever we start with building that system of certainty for people, we start by helping them get very clear on, okay, what's the outcome you want? Break it down to a skill and the situation you need to master it in. So that's a first step to it, right? Because if you don't, you're going to be kind of just, it's like when we use visualization a lot, and I'll talk about that in a sec, but like most people do visualize, they don't do it the right way, right? Yeah. So the problem that they run into then is, and I'm sure you've heard this before yourself, where it's like, hey, visualization doesn't work for me. It's like, well, visualizing the outcomes doesn't work. Visualizing the process to get the outcome, that works. So whenever we start by breaking that down, we then have them visualize. Visualizing is important. It is a cheat code. It's arguably one of the most overlooked skills, I think, for athletes when it comes to a mental side, just because all of us can do it. We just don't really practice it enough.
Yeah.
And then we have them do what we call intentional practice. So whatever they're visualizing, those two skills and those two situations, we have them actually go physically practice it, be it with a coach or on their own. And then finally, we have them study film. And I think studying film for that certainty is so important, right? Because it's like, think of it, just to bring up a couple GOAT names, like Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant or any of these athletes, it's like, you look at those individuals and they're always talking about how they worked film study in. And it's not because, it's some kind of be like Kobe thing, but it's like, think of what they're doing. They're breaking down where they can get ahead. Yeah. So when you do that, you combine those three things, it builds certainty, and focus is very simple. It's like, I think this is where a lot of people put the majority of focus on their mental skills or however you want to train it. A lot of it has to do with like breathing, which is great. Laser focusing or, shifting focus and attention or compartmentalization. And that's important, but you kind of have to see focus like a cherry on top, right? Because if you think about it, when you know exactly what you need to do and how to do it, and you've repped it out, not that focus takes care of itself, but like it kind of just, it falls into place, right? Because it's like, this is what I got to do. the problem is a lot of times people kind of work from top down with that. And it's like, they don't really have the excitement or the certainty, but they're trying to train this focus. And it's like, it's my focus, it's my focus. 90% of the time it's not, right? With the outlying exception of people who have super high anxiety. But again, if you think about anxiety and you ask yourself, why am I getting anxious? When you really dig through, usually it's because you're unsure of something, right? So it's like, you can train that certainty. So point being, focus is the last part where we see it as more so a cherry on top.
Incredibly well said. You know, I've always had that idea, and the way you just framed it and kind of put like a cherry on top, it's like I'm picturing the triangle. You know, you got to do the foundational components first. And going back to, you know, we pull in mastery and alignment with systems here through all of the repetition and the intentionality. Like that resonates with me so deeply. It falls into place because you've done it 1,000 times or thousands at this point, that it's so automatic. Now we invite in a conversation on flow state. It just kind of clicks. It happens. It occurs.
Yeah. And it's so important too, because like even flow state, you know, it's a well-known term, especially in golf, right? Especially in golf, especially in high performance in general. But it's like, you got to ask yourself, like, okay, what really breaks down flow state? Like we look at flow state kind of as our, like I said, excitement, certainty, and focus. And it's like, well, people dance around that so much because it almost becomes this like white light you're chasing. And sometimes you hit it and sometimes you don't, if that makes sense. And it's like, it becomes very frustrating for athletes, right? And it's like flow state, if you really think about it, we call it preparing to let go. So you've got to put yourself in a position when you're preparing where you're able to just walk into game day and enjoy it. You're able to walk into performance day, match day, whatever you want to call it. And it's like flow state really starts in your practices. And it's something that is then met on game days versus a lot that kind of think where it's, you know, it's just a game day thing.
Surrender. I love how you said it, preparing to let go. But yeah, my mind is screaming, just surrender. And it's like, invokes trust that you've put in the preparation. And, you know, we've had a lot of conversations on this podcast around confidence. And one of the key words that always comes up, and if you're, you know, creating a formulaic approach to confidence, is the fucking preparation. Yeah. You've got to prepare. You've got to put in the repetitions.
Yeah. And it's funny, man, because I would even challenge it too. Like, confidence it's a myth for a lot of athletes, right? Like, look, we work with, like yourself, very high-end athletes. We worked with NBA All-Stars, NHL All-Stars, Olympia, everything you could think of, right down to table tennis players, to all of that. And it's like, when you think about these individuals, their confidence ebbs and flows. Like, right? Like, it's just the reality. There's one thing that sticks with them, though, and that's their certainty. They trust themselves, right? So whenever we build, it's like, look, you got to look at how this really works. And we love systems, like we were saying. So there's a system for that too. It's like, it goes certainty, courage, and then confidence. So think of, break down confidence for a second. It's like, okay, what is it really? Confidence comes from you knowing you can get a result. Okay, now let's work backwards. It's like, well, to get a result, you've got to have the courage to take risk or take action. You do. You have to trust yourself to take that 3-point shot, to take that swing when you don't want to you've got to trust yourself. Okay, so there's courage first. And it's like, well, what comes before courage? And it's like, you got to have certainty. You got to trust the fundamental skill, the mastery part, right? So it's like, if I think about all these athletes we work with and why they achieve so much, a great example is an NBA player we work with, Larry Markkinen. Larry is on top of his game this year, and he has been for the last 3. And it's like, okay, so what's the shift that's happened? It's like, he's really good at shooting that 3 ball. He's really good at making sure he knows what situations to do it in, and he practices the hell out of it. And when he does those 3 things, he has the courage to take his shots in practice or in games, gets the results, and then the confidence is built as a result of it, right? So it's like, when you look at confidence, it's a funny thing, but it's always the end result with it, you know?
Yeah. Where does commitment lie into that equation? And funny enough, it's another word that starts with C.
Yeah, commitment is, I think commitment too, so the way we explain it is it's part of actually excitement for us at Molliteum, right? Because it's like, if you got to think of something. When you're really excited about something, it's because you committed to something that means something to you.
Yeah.
Right? And the key behind it is a meaning aspect that I think a lot of athletes forget, especially as they rise through the ranks. Like, think about it, especially when it comes to high performance in golf or in any sport in general. The higher you go up that totem pole, the more you tend to get ripped away from what used to to excite you and fuel you, right?
Mhm.
And you have a bunch of people that make it about results and very few people that make it about you wanting to be a pro golfer or whatever it is. So when it comes to commitment, we always say, okay, it's about committing to the person you want to become. Because I think a lot of times we chase, right, like this idea of results. And it's like, well, let's keep a very simple example. Weight loss, easiest to see on the surface. It's like, okay, you can want to lose 10 pounds or become somebody who's very fit. Well, okay, someone who wants to lose 10 pounds, right, you're going to chase and chase and chase. Someone who's very fit they're going to have a much different outlook on things. So like whenever we go through the work with an athlete or whomever, we start with a commitment of who they want to become and what's meaningful to them. If you want to become a pro, hell yeah, like let's become a pro. There's going to be a certain level of commitment. And then, coming to it, we always ask them the simple question. There's always going to be 3 things you got to give up in order to get there. What are they?
Yeah.
And it's, okay, well, I've actually got to start doing this and stop doing that, start doing this, stop doing that. And that turns into your standards. So it's like, hey, did I follow these 3 standards today? I did. Great. I'm becoming that person. If not, change it up, be better tomorrow and go forwards. And it's not about being perfect when it comes to commitment. You're not going to be. As long as you can hold on for 80% of the time, you're going to get what you want. Guaranteed. Right?
So timely. So I just had a conversation yesterday, and for those of you listening, I don't know what order the podcast episodes are coming out, but with another mindset performance coach, Colin Henderson, and he said something in the beginning of the conversation that we unpacked, and it was like, high performers can perform confidently without feeling confident. And we unpacked that, and I loved the conversation, but what you just said of unpacking it to the layer of certainty, that's what's always there, despite the temporary feeling of confidence. Like, so well said, Matt. Now, and there's a theme of C here, I guess. So you're talking about, who do you want to become? This identity that you're getting clear on from the beginning. Do you invoke clarity around core values as a part of that process?
100%. Because at the end of the day, and it's a good point you bring up, like, you got to think at the end of the day, at the high performance level, your standards and your values get met, not your results, right? And it's funny because I think a lot of times we believe that top athletes are individuals that know how to get the result. And I'm going to be honest with you, they know the way to get there, but you got to think of it like there's going to be performances where you do absolutely everything right, and you're still not going to get the result you want, right? And it's like that makes, for people that chase confidence, that absolutely destroys them. For people that live by, or high performers that live by standards and values, now you know what the checkoff is, right? So a great example, if your 3 values are all out effort, whatever it might be there, all out effort, courage and aggression. And it's like, okay, that's what I value. I value those 3 things in performance. It's like, did you hit those? Yeah. Okay. Then you can walk away and know that the next performance, with a couple adjustments, it's probably going to go your way, right? That's, you gotta operate based on absolutes that you're in control of. That's the key to high performance.
So build off that. So well said, because now it invokes a conversation around, these high performers have spent, if not the majority, all of their life pursuing, whether we call it perfection, success, status, legacy. What have you observed in your work with these incredibly successful individuals in terms of their ability to detach their self-worth and esteem from their results?
So it's funny because the super high successful athletes that we work with are individuals who they're very detached from results, funny enough, right?
Yeah.
And it's like that principle we have of prepare to let go, they really live by it. So a great example for some of them, a lot of the NBA players we work with, for example, it's like, okay, you just got to win your morning shoot around. That's the key right now. Win it. You got to go 10 out of 10 on that. You got to make sure you're good. You got to do your visualizing after what we call mental reps. You got to do this after everything's, specific to them. And it's like, if you do that, the next step, you got to win the warm up. Okay, win the warm up, do this, do that. And it's like, once you do that, we break it down to keep it as simple as, quarter by quarter numbers that they want to hit. And it's like, it's way easier to get 3 points in a quarter than it is to get, let's call it 12 in a game, right? It's way easier for a golfer to make sure that they, strike a ball with a specific movement than it is to make sure you shoot a certain number on a day. And it's like, you have to go through the process of that breakdown. It's tedious, it's annoying, but it's a game changer, right? Because like one tactic we use with a couple golfers we work with is like, hey, on your scorecard, you can bring a little note with you if you have to, right?
Yeah.
You can write down what those 3 things are. And it's like, as long as I did these, it's like, okay, cool. I did this well, did that well, missed that one. Let's change that on the next and I'm going to be good to go. And that's, I think on a side caveat too, what's important for high performers, like I'm noticing with the individuals that we work with at the elite levels, it's not the absence of error, it's the understanding of how quickly to move on from it, right? And it's like, it's so crucial because they know if they're going to be these guys or gals who are going to take those risks, errors are part of the process, right?
Yeah.
It's just how quick you can get back to it or have a system to get back to it.
Which I think embodies resiliency. Some might call it bounce back mentality. How do you train that? Or what have you observed to be most effective in helping athletes quickly move on or let go of a mistake to focus on whether it's the next shot, the next opportunity?
Raise your standards. And it's funny because, so you said a word that's really important before, surrender.
Yeah.
Right? So like, it's funny because I feel like a lot of times when athletes progress and it's not their fault, but when they progress, they don't know the new rules of the game. Rules of the game are the higher you go, the more mistakes you're going to make, and you got to accept that. Yeah. So when it's one of those things, like a big thing that we have to do with athletes whenever they level up is reimagine their beliefs with them, right? Rewrite those, rewire them. And it's like, why? Because at the next level, you got to understand like mistakes are going to happen. They're going to more than when you just played in that small pond, right? When you're in a big pond now with big fish, they're going to happen, but you just have to be able to understand that and accept it. So it's like, building a system around that, it's not necessarily this crazy tactic. I wish it was because we would charge a lot of money for it. But the reality is when it comes down to it, it's like, it comes with it's a simple mindset shift. It's like, part of the game up here is for me to make mistakes. And if I'm going to hang with these individuals, I've got to be comfortable doing that. And it's going to suck at the start, but hey, I've got the 3 things I got to come back to. I'm training my certainty. I'm preparing to let go. I keep coming back to it. As long as I do that, I'm good. Very timely discussion I just had with an athlete yesterday. He had a lower shooting percentage. And he texted me after his game yesterday. He goes, man, I had an air ball. I said, damn, that's tough, isn't it? He goes, yeah, but hey, man, I raised my shooting percentage by 5%. It's like, damn right. So it's like, okay, still got the air ball, but still raise the percentage. It's like, you have to take those margins when you're playing at that level, at the highest level in the world, right?
Yeah. Pretty sure Kobe airballed a few significant shots. He turned out all right.
100%.
So it's interesting. I love how you take the time to reflect and reset standards, reassess, reevaluate as they climb each ladder of growth success. I often invite the phrase or the cliche, with every new level comes a new devil. So it's an identity check. What are some of the patterns of believing, thinking, and behaving that you thought you conquered, or they show up in a different way with this new level of success? Walk us through then. Somebody has stepped out of the small pond. They're playing in a larger pond. Mistakes are something they're supposed to be open to, but you and I both know mistakes can often trigger identity spirals. What's wrong with me? Do I belong? How do you help your athletes and individuals separate themselves from the recency of the mistake and make sure they can continue to work on that certainty?
Yeah. So there's a couple things we do. I'll give you the process behind it, and then we'll go like granular, right? So from an overarching standpoint, whenever an athlete, you said 3 things: beliefs, behaviors, and did you say skills?
Beliefs, behaviors, feelings.
Feelings.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So whenever we work with an athlete who's leveling up and so on, we always look at it in a similar way, but we say commitment, competence, focus, right?
Okay.
So commitment is you have to make a new commitment when you get to the next level. I think a lot of times athletes believe this idea that just because they leveled up, that's that, right? Like, oh, my commitment's there. It's like, no, you need to make a conscious choice to really what you want to accomplish at that level. And it comes down to 3 things we always ask athletes. Do you want to be somebody? And there's no wrong answer to it. It's really what they want. It's like, what means something to you? Do you want to become one of the best at this level? Do you want to become somebody who's dependable, but not at that top echelon? Or do you want to become a role player? It's totally up to you, right? And it's either one works, but you have to be very clear about what it is that you want. Because if you're starting to chase that next level, that highest one to be significant, but you kind of got those average habits, you're going to be disappointed a lot of the time. So we want
not to interject, I hear
threat.
Honesty. You've got to be honest with yourself.
Totally, man. And I feel like that's a thing too, with yourself, not with mom or dad or a significant other, with yourself, right? It's like, you can do amazing things in this world. but you have to want to do it. You know what I'm saying? So it's like when we start with commitment, we always start with an identity. Then we break down beliefs in order to get them to that next level. The second thing then that we do is ask the competence questions, or, how you were saying before, behaviors. And you got to ask yourself, okay, so if I want to be this guy or gal at this level, what are the new skills I either need to refine or acquire during this time? Right? So it's like, could be as simple as just refining skills to be able to do it at the next level, or you might have to go out there and build something in an off season, either or. Just get honest with it. And then the last part is focus. So to your part about feelings, it's kind of where we go into the feelings part. And it's like, okay, so how do you need to be able to focus at this level? And we do something called pressure mapping, right? So we want to ask ourselves going into an environment. So before you were able to play without money on the table, now you're playing with money on the table, right? So like you're going to have sponsors who are a little bit crummy at times with you. You're going to have wagers you got to prepare for. You're going to have travel expenses you need to understand that are going to be there. That's all stress, right? That's all going to build up to it. We got to be able to handle that now. So whenever we go through with them and we ask, okay, who do you want to be? What skills you need to accomplish or acquire? And then the last, or refine or acquire. And then the last one being, what pressure do we got to prep for? Once you have those in place, then we get into the granular stuff of building the skills behind them, right? So yes, sorry, go ahead.
No, really well said. So then take us through that. The perceived pressure is mounting. They've leveled up. They're continuing on that trajectory to reach the top, whatever their particular goal is. You treat pressure as simply information. Most people default to pressure as a challenge, a threat, a stressor. How do you help your athletes maintain the focus on their systems, the execution, as that perceived pressure continues to mount?
So it's funny. We do a lot of forecasting for them. Okay. Right. So like you got to think a lot of times the thing that scares people the most, or the thing that derails people the most, is when something unexpected comes up. Right. So it's funny because I read this really good excerpt in a book a couple years ago, and it's stuck with me ever since. And it's like, it was somebody who was talking about coaching in a space, and they're like, my job is sometimes simply to educate about what the person's about to get into. And that alone can really help them and save them so much time. And it's like, I never really thought about that. And when you do, and you break it down deeper, it's like the lives of our athletes and even our coaches here at Molliteum became way easier, because even before, where we used to get thrown off and it's like, oh, I never saw that happening. It's like, hold on, remember, Sarah was really good last year, but she just took that leap. Okay. We need to expect for at least a 1 to 3 month grace period there where things are going to be hectic. Hey, Coach Jesse, you need to slow down and you need to get ready for this. So it's funny because it's worked for us too as coaches. Yeah. But when it comes to the athlete, it's like, for us with pressure, it's not a matter of calling every single little thing out, but it's to say, hey, you're going to have a coach who's going to yell a little more. Or, hey, you're going to have that pressure there. And then that's when we can do the behavior change work. Because a lot of the work that we do and we get into is reconditioning, right? So everything that we do as human beings is conditioned and learned behaviors or beliefs, right? So if you know how to really rewire that, which is a lot of the work that you do too, it's funny because it's more so understanding what that stimulus is going to be and changing the way you're going to react to it. So if we know, for example, right, that you're going to have a coach who's vocal, that's just an easy one to go with. And there's going to be times that you get thrown off. We just want to condition and say, okay, when A happens, you do B. Simple. And we're going to, visualize that over and over and over again. And you're going to see it and feel it with so much imagination, it feels real. And you're going to go do it, right? Like, it's funny because the deeper we've gone on all of this since 2015, the more it keeps coming back to is recondition, right? Yeah. And it's like, I was just talking to a general manager before this, and we were talking about a player, and he goes, so like, what's the big idea with this individual? I said, it's more so about unlearning than it is learning. Because a lot of times we think we need to just keep acquiring more. And it's like, hey, your perfectionism at that level could work because you weren't with players as good as you. You have to expect now it's not going to be there. Yeah. You know what I mean?
I often joke that, through hypnosis, really what I'm doing is dehypnotizing my clients from all the pieces of information, beliefs, and patterns from society, entertainment, and their elders, parents they've picked up. It's a releasing, a letting go. You're right. We live in an age where there's just so much fucking information widely available. We're conditioned to consume, but man, if you flip it and start letting go, you free yourself up.
So much, man. And dude, it's funny because like a lot of these common day athletes, what's tough and it's not to shit all over it, but like social media really is tough for a lot of them, right? And it's like, you only ever get people's A game on that page. You do. And it's tough because then you start to think like, oh my God, am I behind? It's like, just double down, like get real about yourself. That's why we obsess so much with systems with these individuals, because a lot of times it's like raising a kid, right? Like you can't protect a kid from every little thing that's going to happen in the world. You can give them values and standards that they live by so they understand what's right and wrong. And it's the same with high performers. It's like, just know what's right, know what's wrong. It's wrong to pay too much attention to all the stuff you can't control. It's right to hyper obsess over your process. Do it.
Yeah.
Right?
Simple, not easy.
Not easy at all.
So talk us through, I often come back in these conversations, we're so focused on process results. Where, if at all, does a system for rest and recovery come into play?
Every week. And it's funny because it's a great point you bring up. It's why we talk about lifestyle so much. So like high performance really is, a lifestyle when you think about it, right? Because there are the individuals that they can go 10 days and then they're going to burn out for 4. There are the individuals that have to be super diligent and detailed with their sleep, or they can't even move the next day. So you got to understand, like, the whole purpose to this, there's an art and science behind it. There's the art of living and the science of performing. And it's like, when you look at it, you got to realize, okay, part of this is about going through life and understanding that this is my job, right? And it's funny, man, because like I know that they're on TV and they're athletes and so on, but like it's a job. It really is. And you got to treat it that way. And after your 9 to 5, you got to be able to put that down or you're going to hate it tomorrow. And I'm not even going to attest to hustle culture because I think we're past that, but there's this like perfectionism, wannabe Kobe Bryant II culture that's out there right now. And it's like, you got to understand that worked for him with a lot of vices that came with it. Right. So when we look at this for rest and recovery, we call it reloading, and you got to be able to see it as like, you're really reloading your batteries for the next day. Because if you don't have a proper sleep schedule, okay, sounds basic, but like, you're good on 8 hours versus when you're trying to muscle out through 6. Probably not a good idea, right? You know that you have a lot more juice when you're able to miss the sport for a day versus when you're trying to focus. And it's funny, if you think about it, a lot of the answers you're looking for come from when you're desensitized, when you're like away from it, right? And there's a reason that retreats work. There's a reason that all that stuff works. It's not just some nice idea. Like there's real science behind it. You're escaping the environment that put you in that mentality. So it's funny because when you're able to tap into that on a weekly basis, we always like to say every athlete needs to get out of their environment 1 day a week. You have to. You have to find a way. You got to work on it. It's hard because some guys only or gals have a half day, but even that, you got to do it, right? So anything you can find for time with that is a crucial part to it.
I love that. And I often talk about too, and I have an imagination you'll agree, is additionally, during that time away, all of the integration of the skill acquisition you've been working so hard to consume and complete, that's when all of the so-called magic of learning and development takes place. If you keep grinding, you never have time for those skills to fully be realized.
Yep. And it's funny, man, because like, so a trick that anybody can look at is read any piece of information today. Make sure it's a little bit more of a challenging piece of information. It could be something you got to memorize or whatever. Read it before you go to bed. And read it over a couple times, right? I can guarantee you're going to have to try really, really hard before bed to keep that in mind versus the next day where it's kind of like, oh, it just pops up, right? And it's like, so when you look at, because a lot of times, if you tie it back through it, it's athletes wanting to better their skills that they oftentimes work through things, right? So you got to understand that part of bettering the skill is part of letting the skill seep in. So when you can recognize that as part of the process, it's like, okay, well, there's got to be a work, there's got to be a rest. And it's not necessarily rest in like, a negative way. It's rest so that you can actually let it sink into your subconscious, sink into your nervous system, and build on it the next day. Otherwise, you're going to be forever going through these motions that you're just always going to be tearing down and rebuilding and never building anything.
Yeah, you're feeling busy and productive for the sake of doing and feeling busy.
Right, exactly.
So bring us full circle now. We kicked off this conversation, resilience, really equating it to adaptability.
Yep.
How do you help, let's say an athlete for whatever reason, has always been the big fish in the small pond. They've been blessed with this incredible talent. Yet as they've started their journey of growth to the next level, it's very clear they lack that resilience. They lack the ability to adapt. How do you train that? How do you address that?
Yeah. So step one, start with who you want to be, right? Get very clear on it. Ask yourself, like we talked about the commitment, who do you want to be at this level? Step number two, you got to ask yourself, what are the things I need to stop doing or start doing? Step number three is then you got to get into asking yourself, okay, what skills do I've either got to go acquire or sharpen to dominate at this level? And step four is to ask yourself, okay, what pressure do I need to prepare for? And then once you do, you seek out individuals like you or myself and you go to work, right? And it's like, it's crazy because a lot of times we talk about why working with somebody or whatever is so important. It's like, it's not because you need a mental skills coach or because you need any coach. It's because you need someone that can fast track your success as quick as humanly possible, right? And it's like, when you can, my firm belief is, at least, and we do this here within our company and with our athletes, it's like, whenever you can, hire. Get somebody in, even if it's for a day, you just do one day with them to get like what those skills are down, and then you go do it for the rest of the time. But it's like, instead of trial and error, you can utilize somebody's experience, take all their errors and only use the things that worked, right? So it's like, it's simple, but yeah, we follow the 4 steps of just know who you want to be, know what you got to start or stop, skills, and then of course, pressure.
Love that. Now, when you're going through that process, what are the common forms of fear, hesitation, anxiety that are typically invoked as you're attempting to help someone arrive at honest clarity in their answers to those questions?
I think a big fear a lot of athletes have is that they won't be able to figure it out. Right? So it's funny because whenever we've had athletes who haven't been able to get honest with themselves or the process or what it is, it's really a fear. It's an insecurity of, oh my God, am I never, like, I would rather keep this on and be half as good than realize maybe I don't have what it takes yet at this level, right? So it's funny because whenever you go through that and you get honest with it and you get clear on it, it's like, you've got to realize prolonged suffering is not what's supposed to happen here. Like, you can do this. You can really do this. You always got to think, if you got this far here, you're probably good at something, right? Like, you got this far. Why not go the next level? Why not push it? Right? So anyways, when it comes to fear, a lot of times you got to get honest with it. And it's like, realize anything can be figured out. There are experts for all of it. There are YouTube videos galore. There is podcasts you can listen to like this. There are books you can read. You can figure anything out. Have the courage to go through it.
Very well said. Now, let's talk about a very common challenge, if you will, that's occurring left and right for golfers, and I'm sure you see it in the basketball players and other athletes you work with. It's on the range, in the practice area. They're scratch golfers. They can hit every shot under any circumstances, but their ability to transfer that same skill to when they need it most on the course, on the court, what's the block? What's the way to overcome that?
Yeah, it always comes back to 2 things. It's either specificity, or what we call purpose, or intensity, right? So, and athletes get in their own head and get trapped with this. This is, again, why it's always good to have like an external person. And you don't have to have a coach, but somebody that's been at that level and had results, right? So they can see and say, hey, you know what? This is actually what you're missing. So a lot of athletes, all athletes work. All athletes work. Let's use that simple rule. All athletes work. If you're working, though, on the wrong things, that's never going to be good for you. So wrong things come to 2 parts, right? Like I said, there's purpose and there's intensity. Purpose means that you know exactly what the skill is that you need to work on to be successful in that situation. And intensity is to know exactly what kind of speed or challenge, or we can call it hurdle, you need to be able to do it at. So a great example is, let's pretend you are taking a fairway shot, right? Fairway shot that is in, good grass, nothing bad, nothing crazy. But for some reason, you can't hit that shot with wind. Okay. If you go practice that fairway shot in good grass and you're stroking and it's going well, it's still not going to transfer. And it sounds crazy to say, but you got to think like, you need to think about how you are when it's windy. Okay. So you're having to constantly adjust things, right? Your hand positioning, your finger positioning, your feet positioning, even the way that you're approaching it. And I'm not saying you got to get there, a big, massive fan and start blowing air on you, but hey, like, let's be real, man. There's a reason that Tiger Woods' father did what Tiger Woods' father did, right? And there's a reason that he was one of the best at what he did. So a lot of times, we think we're doing that work that's actually the proper skill in the proper environment, but oftentimes it's one or the other that's missing. And once you make that little tweak, it's like, oh my God, like everything just opened up. And it's really that simple. Like whenever we get athletes that are like, I'm slumping, it's like, well, in the current moment, yeah, but like, why are you slumping? It's like, well, I don't really trust myself in this situation. It's like,
boom.
There it is. So what is it specifically you don't trust? Well, it's shooting the ball in this kind of environment. Okay, cool. So we know we need to train that. Can we train that? Yeah, we can. Okay, let's train it. So whenever it comes down to that, it's interesting because everything, I'm a firm believer, everything can be figured out. If it's not something that, someone hasn't done before, you just got to look a little harder.
Yeah, I love that.
Right?
So strip it back even further. So for our listeners, you have done such an incredible job providing information on not only the value of systems, but where and how to begin implementing them. If you could offer 1 to 3 low-hanging fruit action steps to help the listener begin to live a high-performance lifestyle, what comes to mind?
Step number 1, you need to have some kind of a practice in the morning where you slow down and you prime your mind to focus on what you want. I think a lot of times we roll into the day where the key to high performance really is slowing down. So if you haven't already, right, like step number 1, get very, very, very clear about your goals. Very clear. Don't just, write down, I want to have a good season. Don't write down, I want to have a good round. Like, I mean, specifically, exactly what do you want and who do you want to be with that? If you want to be one of the best golfers in the tournament coming up, write that down and put it on paper. The second thing then to do once you have that is to ask yourself, what do I need to do to get there? Write that down too and be specific about it. I got to better this. I got to do that. I got to acquire this. I got to that. And then the third thing is priming. So priming really is the rehearsal of success in your mind. That is priming. Mm-hmm. That's not visualizing. That's priming. So priming means that it's like, best way I can describe it is that you want to people call it set your intention or whatever, but you want to set your mind for the day on what you want to accomplish, right? So step number 1, you got to have that. You got to have that practice in the morning. You can use something as simple as like, a meditation track in the background where you're just visualizing yourself literally accomplishing that thing you wrote on that paper, doing it in that way and seeing yourself do it over and over again. 10 minutes works. And the reason that 10 minutes is so important is because the first couple minutes, your mind is going to wander. By minute 4, you're probably going to start to get it. And by minute 5, you're going to get onto it. If you can do it for 5 minutes, you're good. But 10-minute practice with that. The second thing, if you want to be high performance, you've got to be very clear about what is going to make you successful and put repetitions into it. Like sickeningly amount of repetitions. If you're not using visualization, you can literally Google it and you will find a lot of good videos or articles or anything on it. It's no secret. The one thing I'll say about visualizing though, just remember it's like building a house, right? So you can't build a house from the roof down. It's going to collapse. The same way you can't just visualize results. It's not going to work. So what you need to do if you're going to visualize, know the outcome you want, and then the skill it breaks down into, and see yourself using those skills properly to get that set outcome. So if I want to, we were a golfer I was working with a couple months back, wanted to have a better swing on his drive, right? Okay. So his whole thing was he had 3 cues in that drive. He had to do something with his arms, something with the head of the club, and something with his feet. He visualized that, and then all of those being aligned, and then having that perfect shot, and he was able to go through and fix it. And it's like, okay, that's because if you think about how most people visualize, they're just seeing the outcome. We don't need that, right? So him having those 3 cues allowed him to get there. And then the last part is you need to practice before you go into your actual performances, right? Like, don't ever assume that you can just wing it going into a practice or a game. And the other thing I'll say to people too, if you want to be a high performer, you really got to understand it's about going into every practice like it's a game. because that's really where your certainty is built, right? So it's like if you're rolling into a practice and you just had a 40-minute car ride to your training session and you're not allotting enough time to get, again, primed for what's about to happen, it's probably not going to work, right? So we like to use a simple step formula for a pregame. So we always start with breathing. We like to do box breathing. Box breathing is a key just to get you centered and calm and focused, right? Like right before a performance. So we do 3 of those to 4 rounds of box. So 4 in, 4 hold, 4 in, or 4 out, 4 hold. The second thing we then do is have them go through the 3 keys of what makes them successful in that performance. And then the third thing we have them do is watch film on somebody who's performing those 3 things. So it could be themselves, could be their idols. The reason for this is just because if you are a little nervous before a performance, it helps you see like exactly what to do and brings you that clarity. And then the last part is we have them visualize what they just watched, right? So it's like those 4 steps together, that breathing, the clarity on the 3 things you need to do, watching film on it, and then visualizing it. It's about a 20-minute practice. But again, like if you're going into a practice or game and you want to really do this at a good level, you got to think about it. Like you got to be able to get yourself in that headspace before you start, right?
Yeah, which means for everybody listening, showing up at the course 10 minutes before your tea time is not the answer.
Horrible time to do that, right? Even like too, like you got to think there's a reason pro athletes at top levels have 30 to 45 minutes before they start to get into it, right? Yeah. And it's like, it's not just because it's cool and they can, look good for cameras. It's because they're really trying to prep their body and their mind.
Yeah.
So it's a crucial but often overlooked thing.
Yeah, and something to add too to what you said when you're getting into that 10-minute visualization and mental rehearsal routine, just to echo, like it is a skill. So the more you do it, those 4 to 5 minutes of distraction and quieting your conscious mind, that improves your ability to get deeper faster and to go deeper as you progress also improves. So it's definitely something like everything else in this life you have to stick with and build consistency on.
Yeah. And like you got to make it part of your practice, right? Like, look, at the end of the day, if you're going to do something, do it well. Do it to the best of your ability. Do it to 100% of your potential. Do it to everything. And it's like little things like this, it's all an accumulation effect. As you keep adding more little things, you get better, right? And it's not to say, I think you'd be the first to say too, Paul, like you don't need a lot of this stuff to really dominate. You don't need to do the journaling and the breathing and the visualizing and all this. You need the couple things that move the needle for you.
Yeah.
Right? And master those things, like beat the heck out of them, use them to apply to different skills. Just for the love of God, don't change it all the time, right? Stick with it, build a practice.
Yeah, I feel like most people who are interested in success, and those of you listening, take note of my word, are aware of all the best practices for success. Very, very few are executing, and it's only the few who are committed to success that are executing.
Yeah, and I'll challenge, you know what, that's a great point. Like I'll challenge anybody listening too. The first time you apply something, it's uncomfortable. It is, right? The first time you do the visualizing or breathing or priming or whatever, it's uncomfortable. And it probably will seem like it doesn't work a little bit. Then you're going to do it again and again and again, and it works, right? It's like any process in your life. If I told you you had to eat healthy, it sucks a couple times on day one, right? Unless you're someone who really has a good mindset behind it. But usually it sucks. And it's like, then it gets easy, then it becomes a part of you. You want to get to that stage. And that usually takes, again, there's this whole myth about, 90 days for something to be a habit or whatever, 21 days. It's not, it's repetition, right? So like the more you repeat it, the more it becomes you. Simple.
Phenomenal. So let me get you out of here on this, Matt. I mean, I got to have you back. I have so much more to ask you. Pick your brain on. We'll do it again. Imagine there is a billboard centrally located on a golf course, and this billboard is visible by everybody there, and it's an opportunity for you to leave one lasting message, takeaway, or reminder. What are you writing on that billboard?
Ooh. Become that person. Right? So if you're a girl, become that gal. If you're a guy, become that guy, but become them. Become that person. Right? And it's like, for context, like if you want to do this, I know I'm not a pipe dream guy, I promise you. But if you want to do this, become that person. Don't wish for it. Don't hope for it. Have an honest look in the mirror and ask yourself, like, what is missing? What do I currently have? Go fill in the blanks. But that one phrase, become that has changed my life. That has changed a lot of our athletes' lives. And it's been the cornerstone philosophy behind everything that we do, truthfully.
I love that. For those of you listening, write it down, put it somewhere you're going to see it every single day. Become that person.
Simple.
Matt, thank you so much for joining me. This blew my expectations way out of the water, and they were already high.
Good. Thanks for having me, Paul. It's always fun to share and kind of chop it up, right? Like anything that can help people matters.
Yeah. So where can our listeners go to learn more about you and all the great work you're doing and to learn more about working with you?
Yeah. So if you just type in Molliteum, Molliteum, you'll find our .com, you'll find our Instagram. There's links all over there, like click to work with us. Or what I would suggest anybody to binge and get all our free stuff first, because there's a lot of good free stuff that'll help you. If you still feel that you need to work with a coach or something, by all means apply. But our free stuff is designed to get you results. So like use it.
And I'll echo that. If you want an introductory yet masterclass in systems and a lot of what we discussed today, the free stuff they provide is top notch.
Have you used it?
Oh, yeah.
Which one did you get into?
So I have got, if I don't have the time to get into all the PDFs, I have a Google Drive folder. I'll leave it at that.
Cool. That's awesome. Yeah. There's one there too. It's called, if you go to any of our posts on Instagram and you just comment rewire, don't worry if it's not in that post, but any post, comment rewire, we'll DM you a free, what's it called? Our free Rewire Your Mindset course. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
You can also DM us, I think, free training, and it'll automatically send to you as well. But start there. Like a lot of this stuff, we give away the answers. Like use it.
And what I love too is the way whoever is the master author is just the framing and the questions, the way to get you to really think differently, because again, a lot of what we're talking about, for those of you listening, you have some inkling of this. Not all of this is brand new information, but the way that the coursework and the content gets you thinking and helps you frame your answers in a way that you can actually take action on, like that, I think is some of the magic in just the great content that's already there.
Yeah, no, everything we've designed to make sure that it's like pull away real information and not just, try these 4 things. It's like, don't try, do it.
Yeah, it's actionable.
If we put it out there, it's because we've done it.
Yeah. Matt, thank you again. Absolute pleasure.
Paul.
Yeah.
Likewise. We'll talk soon then.
For sure. And for those of you listening, thank you so much for tuning into this episode. I know you found immense value. I really hope you took notes. If you haven't, here is your call, your reminder to go back, listen to this episode again, get the notes, get the free content Matt and his team have put out there, and start taking action towards becoming that person. And if you haven't done so already, it takes 30 seconds to leave a genuine rating and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you're listening, because that type of information and ratings, candidly, it gives me the street cred to have incredible guests like Matt on here every single Thursday. Thank you again for listening. Have a fantastic rest of your day. Hit them straight this weekend, and we'll catch you in the next episode.